All right, so welcome to Consumer Math. Today's date is January 26, 1/26, 2021. Today we're talking about Social Security. I cannot speak. We're talking about the basics. I just want to give you the general overview and then eventually slightly more specifics. I'm not going to go into the hardcore math because it gets really, really hard, really, really fast. And it's not going to affect you guys for a long time because you can't collect on Social Security until you're like 65 or maybe older if they change the laws. So what is Social Security? Technically, it is called OASDI, an acronym that stands for, and I want to type so I can type faster. It stands for, change font size to 14. It stands for old, age, and it also stands for survivors. And it also stands for disability. And it is a type of insurance. So old age, survivors, disability insurance. Survivors, I'm not sure exactly how that classifies, but like if you are a survivor of Hurricane Katrina, I think you get on Social Security. I'm not 100% about that. I did not research that in depth. The main thing that I want people to learn at the very beginning is this is not a retirement account. It functions entirely different, although it does have many similarities to I pay money into this, and when I go older and retire, then I get money out of it. That same principle applies, but it is a much, much different system. So I'll write here, not a retirement account. When you're investing in your 401k because you're in an awesome business, or if you're in some other thing where you're getting a Roth IRA, whatever retirement account that you have, that retirement account, the purpose of it is to live off of the retirement completely. This is meant as a supplemental income. That's my next thing down here. This is meant as a supplemental income, which means you use it with something else. You can't use it entirely. As a fun fact, if you, what is the fun fact? I'm trying to remember. If there wasn't any Social Security currently, these stats are based on 2020 data because 2021 is still too new. As of 2020, if Social Security were to disappear and no one got paid anymore, 48%, so if, I'll just write this, if no Social Security today, what would happen? And again, I'm talking about people that are 65 years or older, 65 years plus. Out of those people that are 65 years and older, 48% of them would be living below the poverty line. Below poverty line. It's just that little bit of money to make sure that people are not below that poverty line. All right, I'm going to kind of summarize what Anna said at the very beginning. I'm going to summarize why do we have Social Security. So that section I'm going to title Overview. This next section I'm titling History. The Great Depression, 1929, bad things happened, lots of causes. Main thing that you need to know is people didn't have income, they didn't have savings, they didn't have jobs. So Depression, I guess I should call it the Great Depression. Say again? Yeah, they were literally walking around with signs saying, give me a job, and no one would give them a job. Yeah, they did, Martine.
Why didn't they sell those things to other people?
Like to California to work on farms, and there were like 100 people for one job.
Why didn't they got someone else?
The Great Depression was worldwide. Where do you go? Like Mars? I don't know. Oh, okay. That's a. Oh, they didn't have the technology. Darn. Okay. So no money, no income, no savings, no job. Times were tough. So what happened as this was the cause? The The solution to all of these problems is FDR in 1935, as part of the New Deal, created Social Security. I'm just going to use SS for the rest of this lesson because I don't like writing out Social Security over and over again. He created the Social Security. So what was that? The problem was you want to have a system for all United States citizens to have a retirement account. So because they knew back then, and we know today, that people are really bad at saving money. So let the government save the money for you because you're, I don't want to single anyone out, but you're just too dumb to save, United States citizens. Sorry, we're going to do it for you. That was the idea. But the problem is we need that money now. We don't have time to put it into a fund and then get it 60 years later. We don't have 60 years. We need it now. So let's have the young people that do have jobs and are working to just pay for the older people right now. That was the idea. So let's draw two different diagrams. I want to do a diagram of a retirement account. So this left side is going to be retirement account. Very in general. And then this right-hand side in green is going to be Social Security. With the retirement account, yes, question?
So the Roth, or what is it?
Roth IRA, yeah.
You open that once you're 18.
Yes.
Is there like a fee or anything?
Not that I know of. No. It's just an account.
Then you just basically put money in yourself? Or?
Yeah, you still get taxed on it, unfortunately. Unlike other accounts like a traditional IRA, you don't have to pay tax on it until it's tax deferred. You pay tax when you take money out. Roth IRA, you pay tax when it goes in. There are some probably minor fees, but in general, they're just really good to have. But again, you want to be thinking of your baby steps of, you missed all of last semester. I'll go into depth on this another time. I want to get through this lesson. It's a really long lesson. Retirement account. So what does a retirement account look like? It looks like this. You have, I love using color codes, but I'm running out of colors. So you have two kind of paths with your life. You have a long arrow and a kind of a shorter arrow. This long arrow is your working life. You're working, and then you retire. While you're working, you have some amount of money. Let's call this your savings, I guess, or your account. I don't know. You have some sort of account that you put money into while you're working. And then by the time that you retire, you can take money out of that account that has been invested wisely into the stock market, into anything. And then you can take out that money that has grown quite large. That's how a retirement account works. Social Security is similar, but not the same. Social Security is all happening at the same time. It's looking at one specific point of this number line, or of this line, this progression of time. And it's saying, okay, here is a pool of money. I'm going to call this a Social Security Trust. I mean, if I was being very specific, I would call this the OASDI Trust, but whatever. I'll call it the Social Security Trust. What's happening is you have people that are paying into this that are working. So let's draw 4 little dots and say, these 4 people are working and they're putting money into the Social Security Trust. By the way, if you want a current number of how much money is going into this on a yearly basis, in 2019, 944.5 billion was going into this. A lot of money. And then at the same time, at the same year, people are pulling out of this. This money gets distributed. Let's draw 3 arrows to people that are on Social Security. They have retired. They have paid into Social Security. They now get money out that is coming from the current working populace. Okay, but why did I draw an arrow up here without a dot? Because in general, this is not happening currently right now. Before, what was happening is they made too much money. The Social Security Trust was growing. What do they do with that excess money? They put it into, I guess I should say the trust actually goes up here. They put it into the trust up here. I would just call this a pool. They have a pool of money that they distribute. That pool of money can be distributed among people that are on Social Security, and then the excess goes into that trust. And that trust is the interest rate on that trust is not good. That's not going into the stock market. That's too risky. They do very, very low risk treasuries. So I'll write up here, treasuries. And if you remember, I don't even remember what lesson we were talking about, but the spectrum of risk versus reward. This is very, very on the left-hand side of very low risk and very low reward. So it's not growing that fast. Okay, so that's great when you have a surplus of money. If too many people are paying in, this was happening like with the baby boomers, right? A ton of people were working in the workforce. A ton of people were putting money into this pool of money, but that's not happening anymore. Currently what's happening, and this is as of this diagram represents 2019. Currently what's happening is how much money is being taken out? 147, 1,000, no, I'm gonna say this. 1.047 trillion, 1.047 trillion with a T is coming out. And you might notice 1.047 trillion is bigger than 944.5 billion. Not by much, but it is bigger. And in fact, this is getting bigger and bigger each year. You might be worried, well, what's happening to this trust? And you can logically deduce that trust is running out as well. In fact, by current estimates, that is going to run out by, where is it in my notes? I can't find it. In 15 years. This trust runs out as of 2020. Like if you are watching on YouTube right now, that's probably inaccurate. It might be faster. Runs out in 15 years. So the logical question to ask next is, what happens when it runs out? What happens to me? I eventually want to get Social Security as well. And there's a lot of options. There's not a clear idea. There's a best one, I think. So let's ask this question. What happens when the Social Security Trust, AKA the surplus, I can't write, surplus, runs out? And one of four things will happen. Let's go through all the four options that the government has. The government can just raise taxes. That's called your FICA tax, which we haven't got to yet in terms of studying for consumer math. FICA tax just goes up. Pay more taxes, pay the government more money because we need more money to put into Social Security. That probably will happen, but the money probably won't go into Social Security, or if it does, very little of it. Why? Because Medicare has the same problem, but worse. It has less time and it's a bigger budget. So that probably won't happen. What else could happen? They just make sure your benefits go down. Your benefits, AKA the money that you get out of it, just go down. They don't give you as much money, which is pretty likely to happen. A third thing, which probably also won't happen, is other parts of the government pitch in. And by that, I mean, we don't need to give NASA money. We'll give that money to Social Security. Or we don't need to give Medicare that money. We'll give it to Social Security. That's not going to happen because everything is running in deficit. So very unlikely to happen. Pitch in. The fourth thing, which is the most likely to happen, in your teacher's opinion, it might not, is they just raise the retirement age. A few years, not by much. It's already happened in the past. There's a precedent for it. I think. Maybe I'm lying about that, saying that. I'm actually not sure. I thought it's happened before, but I'm not sure. Because the idea being, if people have to wait longer, then the dark thought is, well, they might die before they get it. The not so dark thought is they get it for less years because they die earlier. No, because if you assume that everyone, I know it's a weird assumption to make, if you assume everyone dies at the age of 80, then if they wait 3 extra years to get it, then they have 3 less years of taking out of Social Security. It's a dark thought, but you have to think about it this way. There are a lot of reasons that raising the retirement age kind of saves money for Social Security. It gives the younger generation more time to put money in, right? But that's I'm going to star that one. That's probably the most likely thing to happen. It's the easiest thing to do. It'll cause less grumpy people. I don't know, Martin.
What happens to that money if you die?
Gone, yeah. It's not like your family gets a claim on it for the next 200 years. Like, it's eventually going to go away, right?
Like, let's say I'm 50, I'm still not claiming that money.
Yeah, you're 50, you've been paying into it for, I don't know, 20, 30 years. You've been paying a ton of money into Social Security. You die, you get nothing. That's how Social Security works, yeah.
What happens to the money?
It goes into that pool still, and it goes out to all the other people. Yep. Exactly. And okay, so I'm going to go on a brief tangent. That's why this lesson is going to take so darn long. You don't have to pay into Social Security if there's like a giant asterisk. There's a question, Martin? Practicing a question. Okay. You don't have to pay into it if you are in a religious group that believes that gambling is not okay. Because insurance is gambling. You're gambling like, I'll pay money now so I don't pay money later. It's a form of gambling.
What religion is that?
So you might be thinking, oh, well, I can just invent my own religion and then I'll believe that gambling is not okay. But there's a bunch of asterisks on that, which says you have to be able to provide for your elderly in some form, which means you need to make your own Social Security within that religion. And if you think about that, how can your religion believe that gambling is not okay to not pay into Social Security, but believe that gambling is actually okay to make your own form of Social Security? I don't understand it either, but that's a contradiction that exists in the current United States. On top of that, that religion has to have started at least 1950 or before, so you can't make any new religion, sorry. It mainly applies to the Amish, I believe. I'm not 100% sure about that. I think CGP Greg talks about it in his video. Let's watch it later, tomorrow or something. So what I want to talk about next.
So it's like everyone gets a month? Like someone else gets.
Let's talk about more of the specifics. I talked about the general picture. Let's talk about the specifics. What is the percent that you're going to be paying in your future if you're not already doing it right now? So let's talk about the working people. The working people. And then we're going to talk about the retiring people. AKA, this first section is people that are paying into Social Security. So generally speaking, there are a bunch of asterisks. Almost everyone is going to pay into Social Security. And how much are they going to pay into it? Well, if you have an employer, if you're not self-employed, if you have an employer, you're going to be paying 6.2% every of your annual taxable salary. And again, I use the word taxable because we all remember from previous semester, oh, I can get a retirement plan and I can get things that are untaxable. If I put it into my Roth, not my Roth IRA, my traditional IRA or something like that, then it's not taxed. So 6.2% of your taxable earnings are going to go into Social Security, but your employer also matches you. So 6.2% is you and 6.2% is your employer. For, yes, you can count correctly, that is 12.4% in total. Now, there are a bunch of weird things that happen with this. What if I don't have an employer? What if I am self-employed? Sorry, buddy, you got to pay the 12.4%. That 12.4% applies to everyone. You just get help if you are employed. So it literally pays to have an employer.
What if you're unemployed?
And if you are unemployed, then I don't know. I don't think you pay into Social Security. Because Social Security literally means if you have a job, pay us money. If you don't have a job, it doesn't make sense to pay into something if you don't have a job. So I believe unemployed do not pay into this. If you own a business, you definitely have to pay, yes. Okay, other things that you need to know. This is not important for most of us, definitely not Mr. Snell, who's making a meager $50,000 a year. But if you make $137,700 or more dollars a year, that's the cap, because this is, what am I actually making? Come over to the salary schedule. Mr. Sandell, I've been working for 5 years now. I'm in column 5. I'm making $57,000 actually.
Really?
Question, Laura.
What if you inherit a bunch of money, but you're not working, you're just like living off of your inheritance?
then you don't have to pay into Social Security. Yep. I mean, there are some other specifics that you have to be careful of, but yes, in terms of just Social Security, yep, that's excluded. Social Security is if you are working, you are paying into this. That's the general idea. So you might be able to do some really quick math here, which means yearly, if I'm only paying 6.2%, and this is the cap, there is a maximum amount of money that I'll pay into Social Security. Let's do that math equation really quick. 137,700 times 0.062. Maximum per year that you'll ever pay into Social Security is $8,537. $8,537.40. That is the maximum per year that you'll ever put into it, which you only have to worry about once you make a ton of money. Martin.
So what if you like win the lottery?
If you win the lottery, that is just tax. That's not Social Security. That I really need to talk about the unit on tax. I should have maybe done it before this unit. It just goes into your state taxes. Usually like 40 to 50% of it.
Yeah, I heard that you don't get most of it.
And didn't I talk about winning the lottery in a previous lesson? Okay, sorry. You also missed that. I don't know if I have that video up or not. All right, so let's talk about you planning on trying to collect on Social Security when you're working. In order to get Social Security, you have to qualify. So let's I don't know if I'm gonna add to this section, leave a few blank lines. I might come back here. Let's talk about the retired people. There are two conditions that you have to satisfy. The first condition that you have to satisfy to get Social Security is one, you have to have what's called 40 working credits. And the next question that logically comes is, what is a working credit, Mr. Sindel? Well, the cool thing is a credit just means it's a certain amount of money that you earn per year. So one credit equals currently right now $1,410. This money will fluctuate with inflation, et cetera, et cetera. So this is as of 2021. And you can get a maximum of 4 of those credits per year. You can't make 5 credits a year. Maximum of 4. So max 4 credits per year. And Mr. Sindel will help you with some math. That means if you are making, multiply this number by 4, 16,920. If you're making 16,920 or more a year, you're getting all 4 of those credits. Which, I mean, once you have like a legit job, I'm hoping that you're going to be making this amount of money or more. If you're an artist or a musician or someone that's just really not doing good and you're making under this, it's going to take you a little bit longer. But think about this. If you're making a job that makes more than $17,000 a year, it's only going to take you 10 years to get to the 40 credits because you're getting 4 credits a year. 4 times 10 is 40. So that means I'll say usually 10 years. But again, if you want to be thinking about this like, oh man, one of those years I was just unemployed. Well, then you aren't getting credits towards Social Security. 10 years isn't that many years if you think about it. Typically, if you're like a full United States citizen, you're always in the United States, you're probably going to be working 30-ish years. So it's going to be pretty easy to get those credits. It's not hard. I should also point out that even though those you've got 40 credits, you're still paying into Social Security, regardless of if you hit that 40 credit or not. So that's the first condition, 40 working credits. The second condition to get Social Security is you need to be the FRA. You need to be the full retirement age. I don't know why they have so many acronyms in this class, but I'm teaching you them. FRA, this stands for full retirement age. And I don't know why I'm zoomed so far out. I know you guys already have a hard enough time reading. Full retirement age. What is the full retirement age, Mr. Sindel? When can I start collecting Social Security after I get my 40 working credits? Well, the answer is 62 currently. But as I said before, one of the strategies to compensate for the fact that we're running out of a surplus amount of money in Social Security is to raise this age. So it might not be 62 by the time you retire. It might be 65. So I'll put right now, 62 equals earliest. So if you know someone that is 62 years old, you should be thinking in the back of your head, oh, they can get Social Security right now. But it depends on the type of person. Should you collect that Social Security at 62? Should you wait until you're 70? It really depends on the type of person that you are. Personally, I would take it as soon as I hit 62 because I feel like by the time I'm at that point, I'm going to be a really good investor. I'm not going to be totally out of student loan debt. I'm going to be in a really good spot. I want that surplus money so I can invest it immediately. If you are in a bad spot where you still have debts by this age, first of all, I'm sorry you have messed up in life or something really bad and catastrophic has happened. That is bad because you're now going to almost entirely depend on Social Security, which, as I said before, is supplemental. That should not be your entire income. If you're already in debt by the age of 62, it's going to be your full income. So let me make this cool little table here. Age is one column, percent is another column, and 30-year average is your final column. There are three main factors that determine how much you get every month out of Social Security. The first, obviously, is your age. So if you retire at the earliest age of 62, you get a whopping 70% of your 30-year average. And this 30-year average, I'm just going to copy paste by doing parentheses like this over and over again. Let me talk about the 30-year average. What I mean by this is if I choose any 30 years of your life as a slider, I'm going to slide this into the best possible position, and I'll look at that spot and I'll say, over those 30 years, you earned on average $60,000 a year. That means your 30-year average over and over again for each of these values on the table would be 60,000. I think that's pretty straightforward. 30-year average of your working life, which is most of your working life. Okay, but if you wait longer, like if you wait until the age of 65, then you don't get 70% of that money. You get 86.7% of that working money. And usually the rule of thumb is you kind of just add 8%, add 8%. So by the time you get down here to 67 years old, I know the math doesn't come out correct, and I'm sorry, but it's about 100%. I'm generalizing everything to make this easier to understand. I don't care about mathematical accuracy. I'm sorry, math practice, where are you? 6, attend to precision. I'm generalizing to make this make more sense. If you wait until you're 67 years old, you're getting 100% of the amount of money for your average, which is a good amount of money. Like, this is maybe not supplemental. You might be thinking, wow, that's like my job still, as if I still had a job. And you're right. If you wait longer, it is still a job. But why does Mr. Sindel say he wants to retire at 62? Because even at 70%, that's a bit of money, and I can invest this and make way more than if I just waited. You guys know how strong the stock market is. You know the 3% average of inflation is battling against the 7 to 10% average of the stock market. I can make way more money if I invest that. And the cool thing here is you can wait even longer. You can go and wait until you're 70 and you get 132%. But you have to be thinking of this. Will I live that long? Because if I wait longer and I die, I don't get that money. So that's in the back of your minds. That's my lesson.